Hello, I'm Mr. Lucid, Math Supervisor, grades 6 through 12 here at Mount Olive. Just wanted to go over our course requirements for the math department at the high school, as well as talk about our general vision that we'd like to accomplish. My information here, you could contact me at keith.lucid@motsd.org, or you could reach me at the extension 7623 for the high school. I want to start off by just going over this quote from Gauss. It's a pretty famous quote from a very prolific mathematician. It's not the knowledge, but the act of learning, not the possession of, but the act of getting there, which grants the greatest enjoyment. I feel this quote really encompasses our vision in the math department. As we were working on in the middle school, we'll continue working on in the high school, the idea of producing mathematical thinkers. A good example of this can be seen in a problem I'd like to show you from Gauss himself. The story goes that when Gauss was in elementary school, he was asked to add up all the consecutive integers from 1 to 100. He did so quickly, the teacher was impressed with how fast he was able to do it, and he explained his process. He started off by simply adding the numbers again in reverse, but before adding them as a row, by flipping them in the other direction, he noticed a pattern when he added them as a column. So as we can see from the first column, 1 plus 100 leaves us with 101. He noticed the same thing happens with 2 plus 99. That will leave us also with, you guessed it, 101. This pattern should continue as we move down each column the whole way through, all the way till we get to the other end, which will be 100 plus 1. And that makes sense. Each number moves up by 1 on top, but down by 1 on the bottom. Once Gauss realized this, he was then able to add up all the 101s by simply using multiplication. We have 100 101s in this row, and so 101 times 100 should yield our answer. But there's one thing to be careful of. Gauss noticed this number is when you add up both sets 1 to 100 twice. So he simply divided by 2 and was able to come up with the number 5,050. He then generalized this into a formula that we now have to help us add consecutive integers, where n being the number we want to reach, we simply take n plus 1, multiply it to that number n, divide by 2, and we'll have our sum. I like using this as an example because what we don't really care for is the answer. 5,050 isn't really the outcome we're looking for, but it was the act of understanding, discovering, explaining, justifying that we're focused on. And although formulas are important, and although knowing the steps and knowing the procedure and understanding the rules are important in math, they serve as a tool that we're going to use in a toolbox to help us discover math in a deeper way as we progress into higher levels of math. So our focus is always on the math thinking. Can we explore the math? Can we discover it ourselves? Are we able to apply it to a real world problem, see it in a real world example, as well as justify our own arguments and say things in our own words and our own writing before just memorizing someone else's steps? Moving on from this, I'd like to talk about the requirements in math for the state of New Jersey. It is required that students complete 15 total credits. Each math class is worth 5. Students that are taking Math 8 currently in 8th grade, they will move on to take Algebra 1 or Math Concepts and Applications, which we'll discuss further. And they'll typically take geometry their sophomore year or junior year. They're required to then take a 3rd year of math that builds upon Algebra 1 and geometry, which is typically Algebra 2 given their junior year. Students that are taking Algebra 1 currently in 8th grade, they're looking at taking geometry their freshman year, and then 2 courses that build upon Algebra 1 and geometry moving forward. And that's typically Algebra 2 their sophomore year and pre-calculus their junior year. So I want to quickly just look over the pathways that we have. As we can see here, in 8th grade, if a student is taking Algebra 1, they're moving on the CP path through geometry, Algebra 2, pre-calculus their 11th grade year, and then looking at taking either calculus and or probability and statistics their senior year. And then the honors track, of course, here we have geometry honors, Algebra 2 honors, pre-calculus, and that leads to our AP Calculus AB. That's year 1 calculus, which can get them college credit. It's important to note that students that are taking Algebra 1 honors with teacher recommendation, they have the option to double up and take geometry honors and Algebra 2 at the same time, which will allow them to take Calc AB their junior year and Calc BC their senior year. We offer these two classes as separate, even though College Board might call Calc BC a class that incorporates Calc AB. Here at Mount Olive High School, we treat them as two separate classes, and Calc AB is a prerequisite to Calc BC. And then some students that are taking Algebra 2 honors right now, they have the option to just take geometry, which puts them on the path to taking Calc BC, or they're welcome to double up and take geometry honors and pre-calculus honors their freshman year, which will get them into our advanced topics and calculus class their senior year. This class is going to cover Calc 3 topics. It'll also look at application of calculus, in addition to possibly doing higher level math classes they might see in college. Real fast, I'd just like to discuss the math concepts versus the Algebra 1. Students will be placed in either of these tracks based off of several factors. They will be looking at the student's performance in class, as well as various benchmarks we give, in addition to any state standardized test that's there. I just want to clarify that Math Concepts and Applications is Algebra 1. It's just year 1 of our 2-year track. Students will take Algebra 1 Essentials in year 2 as sophomores, and they're welcome to double up and take Algebra 1 Essentials and Geometry if they wish to get to pre-calculus. Algebra 1 CP students, once again, this is identical to Algebra 1 taught in 8th grade, and they'll be looking at taking geometry as their freshman year. And I have the pathway shown here from Math 8 to either Math Applications and Algebra 1. Notice here I have a dotted arrow to show that students can double up and take Algebra 1 and geometry at the same time if they wish to get to pre-calculus. So overall, we have lots of different pathways. As our district motto, all means all. We're looking at all the various needs our students have, and we want to accommodate and meet those needs based off of where the student is and where their abilities lie right now. We want to give them a pathway that'll work towards success, being mathematical thinkers, and feeling successful through high school. If you have any questions, please contact me, and I look forward to seeing everyone their freshman year. Take care.